Hello, I'm Steven,
And I'm Aaron.
and we have just seen Captain
Captain
America
America,
Brave New World, the latest offering from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It stars Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, and Tim Blake Nelson, and it's directed by Julia Sona. So these Marvel movies have lost a lot of their luster for me the past 5 or so years. What is it, like since Endgame?
Yeah, 2019, I think it was.
Yeah, the last one they did, Deadpool and Wolverine, was actually pretty good and enjoyable. But for me, I don't really think it was anything higher than a 7. And this one, I was, kind of looking forward to. I was actually getting kind of hyped all day as we were getting ready to go see this. But now that we've seen it, what did you think?
Overall, I would say it was just okay. There's a lot of aspects to it that feel like there's potential for it to fall into greatness category, but a lot of its elements are pretty undercooked and not fully developed enough for it to reach that status or like it doesn't hit Winter Soldier territory. It doesn't hit Civil War territory. It's kind of around the first Avenger territory in terms of quality.
I will say that I think I enjoyed this more than the entirety of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier television series, which to me was just kind of like 6 hours of boredom. I did not particularly enjoy that show at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. Unfortunately, that show is pretty important in setting up some of the things that occur in this movie.
That's one of the most like damaging aspects to a lot of these Marvel products as of late is that they're so dependent on you having watched like the television series to understand what's going on. There were actually elements of the plot here that I didn't quite understand, and I've seen like all of them. Was that that island setup?
Yeah. Yes, that's kind of one of the movie's problems, I guess you could say. I guess just to get into like the basic story, it follows Sam Wilson, who's newly minted as the Captain America. It follows his efforts to uncover a conspiracy after a presidential assassination is almost carried out on Thaddeus Ross, who is now the president, played by Harrison Ford.
Yeah, Harrison Ford takes over in the role of Thunderbolt Ross due to the fact that William Hurt is pretty committed to the casket as of late.
Probably not by choice, but he's there. Anyways, it's a political thriller again, just like Winter Soldier was. I think that's also one of the movie's problems is that it feels like it's trying too much to be the Winter Soldier, and it doesn't feel like enough of its own thing, and it should be kind of going in a new territory. The movie's called Brave New World, but it feels like it's doing a lot of the same stuff we've already seen. What did you think of Anthony Mackie as Captain America in this one?
I definitely think that he has potential to be like a very worthy successor to Captain America. I think he does have like the charisma, but I don't think the script totally surfaces
No.
him as a character.
No, not at all. Yeah, I agree. I liked him much more in this one than I think I did in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show, although it's got kind of the same problems. One, like you said, the script underserves his character and like his abilities as an actor. He's a very charming guy. He's a very likable guy. He's real easy to get behind, but unfortunately, the script doesn't provide a lot of depth to his character. There are some things they try to do with him, but they don't go as hard as they could with it. And I think some of that might be for political reasons. Some of it might be just poor writing. What about Harrison Ford? How'd you feel about him in this?
I had a like sort of a mixed opinion on him. I thought sometimes he was really doing well, other times he felt very out of place.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is him joining the universe at such a late stage when we've already gotten to know the character as a different kind of thing, um, versus how much of it is the things in this movie that are affecting him.
There are certain things that he does in the movie that were unintentionally comical to me for reasons that maybe are just me being or just me being weird. Anytime he said the word adamantium, it struck me as funny. And then there are times when he has to try to suppress his inner Red Hulk, which is not a spoiler if you've just looked at the poster of this movie.
Yeah.
And his screams of rage just kind of came off as amusing to me.
Yeah, that didn't bother me so much. I do think there were some times when he was clearly kind of hamming it up. This version of Ross is much more stressed out than previous ones we've seen. He's the president now, so he's got a lot more responsibility. And he just seems like he's kind of overwhelmed by everything. He doesn't really understand how to do the job. His whole message is, together, and he's trying to unite all these countries for this treaty to have everybody kind of take part in the adamantium that they've mined from the Celestial, which is from the Eternals. I don't know if you remember.
I don't remember a damn thing about the Eternals.
Yeah, in the Eternals, there's a celestial body that starts to emerge from the ocean, and the threat is that they have to stop it because it's going to destroy the planet or something. But they stop it like midway through, so it's just stuck in the ocean like that.
Yeah, I had a feeling that Celestial Island thing had to be from something, but I could not remember what because the Eternals left no kind of impact on me whatsoever.
Yeah, but anyways, Ross is very overwhelmed with all of his duties as president, but he's also like the personal story this time I think is what works the most. He's a character who is very flawed and made a lot of bad decisions and mistakes throughout his life, and this is him trying to kind of atone for a lot of that, just to save his soul, I guess, and most importantly his relationship with his daughter.
Yeah, they point that out several times in the movie that he's done a lot of terrible things, and as we learn in the movie, he has indeed done a lot of terrible, terrible things. He's actually kind of a horrible person.
Yeah, the whole movie is about kind of the perception of him. Is he a changed man? Is he's the old Thunderbolt Ross that we've always known? And the conspiracy heavily involves him and his presentation to...
Well, he's definitely not the same Thunderbolt Ross we've already known because that guy's dead.
Yeah. I guess without getting too much into spoilers, what did you think of Tim Blake Nelson?
Well, this was the thing I was looking forward to the most. Tim Blake Nelson is 100% the reason why I wanted to see the original Incredible Hulk from 2008. That was like 15 years ago. And I was like 14 at the time. I'm now 30, so I've been waiting a long time for them to follow up on his character. And I will say I was very pleased as far as the performance is concerned of him as the villain. I actually was like captivated every time he was on screen, and I wish he had been in the movie more.
Yeah, I 100% agree. When he is on screen, he does a great job with the material. I wish they went a little further with his appearance.
I do like how subtle it is. I did kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, they don't go like full blown, square head, flat top with the mustache and stuff like that. But
they don't go like all the way with the makeup the way they did in the movie Green Lantern with the character Hector Hammond, who has like the immense cranium.
Yeah, that might have been too far.
Yeah, that movie I thought the Hector Hammond makeup was actually great. That movie like totally 100% committed to that thing looking as ridiculous as possible.
It is also the performance that makes that one like so silly.
The only issue I really have about the leader makeup in this is the green sometimes just looks painted on, especially on the hands.
I don't remember the hands. I do remember it's like a really light green. He looks sickly more than anything, which I guess works considering he basically is super poisoned by gamma radiation. So.
Yeah, so I was very pleased with the leader in this. Wasn't too keen on the way his story concluded, though.
Yeah, you said he's the villain, and it's kind of a spoiler, but it's really not a spoiler, which is kind of another issue with the movie. It's a political thriller, so there's a heavy mystery, about who's behind everything, and it's really not that hard to figure out who's behind it, at least if you know the history of Marvel. And even in the movie itself, they kind of wrap up the mystery extremely early. and then the rest of it just kind of feels like going through the motions to just kind of tie all the threads up. I kind of wished the movie kept escalating and kept escalating, and maybe you might get less of the character, but it might be more impactful if you reveal certain things like further down in the end of the movie instead of at like the midway point.
Early on in the movie, the leader frames Isaiah Bradley. He brainwashes him into attempting an assassination on the president, which fails, obviously. But they very quickly figure out that he was a victim of mind control. We've already had like mind control established in universe with Bucky, so I feel like it should have been easier to exonerate him, especially since multiple people had surveillance footage of the brainwashing taking place through the cell phones.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Given what we know and what we've seen in the MCU, they probably should have had him out of prison sooner. That being said, Isaiah Bradley was another thing I really liked about the movie. I thought his performance was really good, and I liked his interactions with Sam. Really heartfelt. There was like a lot of fun energy between them, and it allowed this Captain America to kind of show off a side we never got to really see with Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers is much more stoic than this guy. This one feels more like an everyman character, Captain America, which I think is the strength of this version, and I wish they would play into it a little more.
There are several scenes in the movie where they talk about how he's like the kind of guy that people want to aspire to be like, but I feel like we don't really see too many scenes of like Sam interacting with the everyday folk and seeing them like fawn over him and look up to him. There's really like no interaction between him and common people because he's always caught up in plot stuff. That's a big issue with this one. This is like all plot, very little story.
Yeah, the older movies had the benefit of Steve being a man out of time, so he's still kind of playing catch up with everything. This one, he's part of society, like just normal, regular society, but we really don't get a lot of that, citizen interaction. We get a little bit at the bar where he gets like a free drink and stuff like that, and the stuff with Bradley, kind of his relation to him, but not too much outside of that. I almost wonder if this was intended to be like an Incredible Hulk movie because I mean, the villain is the leader, and you've got the Red Hulk in there. I feel like if you swapped Sam with Banner, it might make more sense as a movie.
Yeah, probably. It feels more like a direct sequel to The Incredible Hulk that's 14 years removed. So it's like Captain America Chapter 4, The Incredible Hulk Part 2.
Yeah, it's weird because they'll reference things in The Incredible Hulk like they happened last week. And it's like, oh, the destruction of Harlem from the Hulk and the Abomination, and then Thaddeus Ross, and it's like they talk about it like it was just a month ago that it happened. It's like, no, this was like 15 years ago, guys. Why are we talking about this like it's a direct sequel?
And I also have to wonder how many of the like modern Marvel audience even remember a lot of the Incredible Hulk movie because I get the impression that's not one too many people go back to rewatch because that movie honestly sucks.
It's not very good. It's barely considered canon at this point. Like it was made in a different studio and it was very early days of Marvel, so they don't. It seems like one of the movies that the only movie really that they don't want to take responsibility for. Now, Iron Man 2, they'll own that black mark, but they don't want to touch the Incredible Hulk at all. How did you feel about the action in the movie? Kind of standard Marvel fare at this point.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was gonna say. Standard. I don't. It's really hard to like get me to care about action in these kinds of films. I'm much more interested in action where it's clear that it was like heavily choreographed and well practiced and it's all done in one take, that kind of stuff. I like the John Wick stuff.
Yeah, something that was kind of annoying about this movie was, I mean, it's a Captain America movie, so it features a lot of hand-to-hand combat, but the editing is often so choppy that they'll cut off the shot like after a blow or after right before a punch or a kick. it feels like there's way too much coverage and not enough just letting the camera sit on the action.
In all honesty, I blanked out during some of the action sequences. I was just kind of waiting for them to get over because I just kind of wanted to get back to the plot and specifically back to the leader. Anytime he was off screen, I just wanted him to come back.
Yeah, the action is it's just fine. There is some pretty fun and creative stuff they do with the shield and the fact that Captain America can fly now. He's got the wings. There is some fun stuff they do there. Although Captain America is not the most consistent character in this movie in terms of his abilities and his vulnerabilities. If you watch the TV show, I don't know if you remember, but he gets a vibranium suit at the end of it.
Oh no, I don't remember that at all.
Well, it's mentioned in this movie too, but I mean, vibranium is like one of the strongest metals. It can repel. It like absorbs impacts and stuff like that. Like the first time we see Captain America in this movie, he's like dive bombing out of the sky and he lands on the ground and with not a scratch on him, not a broken bone, but like in the next scene, he's fighting this big burly dude and somehow he gets his suit sliced by a knife and he's getting punched and he's taking blows and he's reacting to getting thrown into like tables and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think at this point there's just so much clutter in these movies that even I'm starting to like forget a lot of these details because if I remembered that he had a vibranium suit, I probably would have been thinking, yeah, that doesn't add up.
One of his big sticking points as being Captain America is I should have taken the serum because I'm not strong enough to handle the challenges that I have to face. And it's like, but you've got a vibranium suit that makes you bulletproof and invulnerable to just about anything.
5 people wrote this, by the way.
Well, I guess one of them forgot about some of the things that they had already established.
And so did I.
There's a big middle action set piece with kind of a battle between multiple nations, and it's Sam trying to save face for the country because something goes wrong and it makes the U.S. look like they just committed an act of war.
That was the aerial battle?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the battle that was taking place when the leader was trying to get Thaddeus to give in to his inner Red Hulk, so my mind was not on that battle at all. My mind was on the conflict between the leader and Thaddeus.
Yeah. So it's a Marvel movie, so we have to have a big CGI fight in the third act. So how'd you feel about the finale in this? We're basically talking spoilers at this point, but if you've seen the trailers, it's not much surprise like what actually happens.
Yeah, the environment that the battle takes place in seems to go from a tangible, real location that the actors were actually standing on to an obvious, painfully obvious green screen within a matter of seconds. That scene is in the trailers, and I actually thought that scene was going to be like the midpoint. I was actually kind of surprised to realize that was the climax, which I guess I was slowly realizing that the longer the movie was going on, and especially after the leader gets his, like, unceremonious exit from the movie.
That's another unfortunate thing. I feel like just from the trailers and the marketing, I kind of already knew how the film was going to play out. That's going back to the mystery not being much of a mystery. I actually kind of liked the battle with Red Hulk in this just because I actually liked Harrison Ford in the movie quite a bit. I thought the stuff that he did worked. I liked his story. I liked his kind of back and forth between, old Ross and new changed Ross and him trying to like fight to keep this rage monster at bay.
As a climax to the movie, it does seem like the logical place for it to go, so I guess it makes perfect sense in that way, and I guess it does earn it. It just, I don't know. I don't think the journey getting to that point was totally worthwhile.
Yeah. Something I do appreciate also that they do in the third act is that the day's not won by, punching the threat until it stops. It does make use of some of this version of Captain America, Sam's abilities. Him being able to relate to people and they make reference to his time as like a PTSD counselor for war vets and stuff like that. So rather than completely devolve into, punching and kicking, it does have a little bit of, humanity and dialogue and stuff in it.
Although the resolution to that fight with Red Hulk, I thought that there was something really obvious that they probably should have done that they didn't.
I assume you're saying just bring Betty out.
That's when they should have brought out the Betty.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I almost thought they were going to, because they mentioned that backup is coming, and he's like, no, wait a few minutes, but...
And earlier, Ross had been on the phone with Betty saying, hey, do you want to go for a walk through the cherry blossoms? So I thought that was when she was going to enter the movie to calm down Ross.
Yeah, I thought that's what they were doing too. Not what ended up happening, though. Although whether or not she's in the movie, who knows?
When I was watching that fight with the Red Hulk, I did think the likeness to Harrison Ford was spot on.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking during that, it's a shame that they didn't have this kind of technology in the 90s, because Harrison Ford actually might have been a pretty good Banner back in the day. Because he has a really good Hulk face.
He does. He does. I think especially since Harrison Ford is so old now, it helps sell kind of the monster aspects of the character. He's just got, those creases and wrinkles in his face. Like even the scar on the chin. And I think he's got a scar in the back of his head too, from what I don't know. But Red Hulk's got that too in the back of his head as well. So definitely a lot of detail and a lot of work went into pulling him off. And I think they were mostly successful.
Probably the best CG effect in the movie.
Yeah. Another thing about the movie that kind of brings it down, I don't know if you were aware of how many reshoots this movie went through.
I was, and that seemed obvious to me as I was watching it. It felt like the filmmakers or the producers, I don't know, the money men, thought that the film was too self-serious, so they had to inject it with a lot of out-of-place humor, because there's many a scene where emotional moments are undercut by a joke.
Yeah, that was kind of irritating to me. I didn't find the humor to be too unfunny where it kind of pulled me out. Not like when like James Gunn does it in Guardians. Like the thing about those movies is like the good character work is hitting and the heart is there, but then the humor is just so crass and it just completely undercuts the moment. Here I felt like it made a little bit more sense, but it still was like, you guys are trying to make this like an old school political thriller, but with superheroes. Just commit to it. Commit to it. I felt like that's what Winter Soldier got right. It committed to more towards what it was trying to be. It took itself and its world serious. This one feels like it's playtime. We have a bunch of action figures and we're pretending that we're a serious movie.
Yeah, get out the toys, slam them together, and put the camera on it.
Yeah, but back to the reshoots, you could tell where and when this movie was reshot, and because there's ADR all over this thing.
I did notice some pretty obvious ADR.
Yeah, there's several shots in the climax where Sam is talking, and you can very clearly tell that they took a plate of like a previously shot scene from the finale and just pasted it behind him on a green screen.
Oh dear.
Even the perspective is weird. It looks like the ground is like behind him and tilted forward, and he's just standing straight in front of the camera talking. It's just like extremely awkward looking.
Kind of like the Thor Loki Hela fight and the Dark
Yes.
the Dark World, was it? And Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
Yeah, because that fight took place in an alley, and then they decided in post, let's make it a cliffside.
Yeah, it looks like they took Sam, cut him out, and inserted him into a completely different scene that he doesn't belong in. Bad ADR, very noticeable. Although it's not Madam Web bad, where you can see characters' mouths not moving. They make sure to make the characters off screen in this one, at least.
Yeah, they could have done a Clutch Cargo thing like in Kraven the Hunter, where they CGI'd their mouths talking.
Yeah. It seems like this movie had a lot of development troubles in figuring out what they wanted it to be.
5 writers, people.
Yeah. There's a lot about the dialogue in this movie and like the situations that the characters are in that feels really awkwardly written. It's almost like descriptive audio where the characters are talking to each other, but they're also kind of describing the situation they're in. It's like, oh, you've got Sam having a one-on-one conversation with a villain, and it's like, ah, Sam, didn't think it would come to this, but now we've met and we're talking in this warehouse and we're about to fight. Again, it almost feels like they're describing what's going on in the scene while they're doing the actions.
So a blind person can follow.
Yeah, I've told you about that. I guess it was like a Netflix executive who said that they designed their products to be viewed in the background so people can like cook while they're watching The Blacklist or House of Cards or whatever television show.
This is no way to make films, people.
No, not at all. Movies are there for people to view and engage with, but it almost feels like they're talking down to us and making sure that we understand what is going on every single step of the way, that we don't lose our place. Let's see, Giancarlo Esposito's in this as well, playing a character called Sidewinder, who's just kind of a gun-toting merc. How did you feel about him?
I thought Sidewinder was sidelined.
Yeah.
It's
Just kind of a waste, but he does have some of the most cartoony dialogue.
Yeah.
He feels like a Saturday morning cartoon villain.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't think I wanted more of him because I wanted more leader, but it is kind of a weird role. It's also a very physical role, but he's 60, and he would get his ass handed to him easily by Anthony Mackie.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be much of a physical presence. He shoots guns well. There's not much else to his character. He talks about how I will get you next time.
Yeah,
Captain America.
That's like
he's like Dr. Claw.
Yeah, it's right out of Inspector Gadget. He might as well have said that. If you try to break out of prison, when I break out of prison,
when I break out, I'm coming for you, Captain America.
When I get out, and I will get out,
there's
going to be carnage.
Yeah, didn't care much for him. It's a shame because an actor like him could have been used in something much better than this.
Yeah, but he's got blue eyes.
Yeah, Gus does have blue eyes in this.
There's one too many characters in this, too. President Ross also has, like, a security chief named Ruth.
Yes. She's another character that I think was heavily changed in editing. I don't know much about the comics that her character is based on, but I think she's like Captain Israel or something in the comics.
Okay.
But of course, with everything that's going on now, like I think they made some changes to accommodate.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
But she kind of just feels jammed in there.
Yeah, she doesn't really do much. She like engages in a few fights every now and then, but
well, she's like Ross's right-hand person in this, and she's the person he trusts when he doesn't trust Sam. But then they kind of just both do the same thing. They investigate the same assassination attempt and come to the same conclusions, and they join forces for why?
Very quickly. They start off as opposition to one another, but that's pretty much just glazed over really quickly, and they become allies super fast. I don't know if it was just me, but that actress who plays that character, Ruth, her face, her voice, and her mannerisms reminded me a lot of Alana Ubach.
Oh, no, I didn't think about her at all.
Yeah.
I was just confused why she was in this movie to begin with. There's already so many characters. We didn't need another one.
Also, Sam is training a new Falcon in this movie. His name is Joaquin. Is that character previously established, or is he a noob?
I believe he is in the Falcon and Winter Soldier movie or TV show.
I don't remember that shit at all.
I think he's in that. I know he's established already because I definitely remember him playing him, but I don't remember how that story plays out at all.
Yeah, I just remember Captain America wags his finger at the government at the end and tells people to do better, which he actually does again. In this one, he does it to Red Hulk.
Well, the new Falcon in this is played by Danny Ramirez. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's fine. They just he doesn't have much to do. His whole story in this is trying to prove himself. He looks up to Sam and he wants to be just like him. But he doesn't really do much else though. He participates in some action, and then of course he has to be taken out of the movie for a little while because it's called Captain America. But he's fine when he's in the movie. He's not a bothersome aspect. He's got good chemistry with Anthony Mackie. He's just fine. Maybe when we get a more focused movie in the future, it'll be a little better.
Yeah, his role probably could have been upgraded, and then
You take
Ruth out altogether.
Yeah, take Ruth out, take Sidewinder out. You could have done a little bit more with him.
More leader, and you could have had something a lot better.
The movie's also under 2 hours. I think it's like an hour 58 minutes. I felt like the movie was both felt too long, but also not long enough, considering how many storylines they were juggling.
Yeah, if you can fully develop every character and it takes 2 hours and 45 minutes to do it, I'll sit through it. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but I mean, if you need more time, then take it.
I think I probably might have enjoyed this a little more than you because I was like really enjoying it. But then after the movie, it's kind of like when we saw Quantumania. There was a lot of parts of that movie that I enjoyed, but after it was over, when I reflected on it and thought about everything that happened, all of the flaws just mounted.
Yeah.
And I realized that was actually kind of a suck-ass movie.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way about this one. Like right when it was over, I was feeling pretty positive about it. Not like it was fantastic or anything, but it was good.
And then your brain just makes all the little connections and
Yeah.
all the dots.
And then I just started thinking about some of the things that didn't work and the things that they did and tried to do or didn't do. And it just brought it down a little bit. It turns into kind of just an okay movie.
Yeah.
A
mostly missed opportunity.
Yeah. There was an opportunity to do something with Sam as Captain America, and this is kind of what the TV show is about, but the TV show wasn't all that great, so I was kind of hoping for like another attempt. But he has a line near the like pretty much at the end of the movie where he talks about his responsibility as Captain America, being who he is, and how everything he does is heavily scrutinized, and any move he makes is a risk, and how he can't get too far out of line because it's one thing to be a superhero and step out of line, but it's another thing to be a black superhero that's working with the government and stepping out of the line. I've heard some people complain about the politics of the movie where Sam has to like work with the government, and it's very like raw pro-American, but I also think the movie's criticizing that kind of mindset because Ross is, he's essentially one of the villains in the movie, and he's the American president who turns into a different color when he's angry. He throws temper tantrums when he doesn't get his way. It sounds like somebody else, doesn't it?
That must be what people mean when they're comparing him to the current president. I actually didn't pick up on that. I actually felt like the political aspect of the film was kind of undercooked.
Yeah, I've heard people say that it's like a both sides movie. I didn't get that impression.
I don't think they really
I didn't think about it that hard.
Yeah, they didn't really prod the political aspect enough for it to even be considered a both sides thing. It felt, I don't know, very half-hearted.
Yeah.
It's not biting enough to be like a super critical film.
Yeah, the movie kind of wants to be about what it means to be a black Captain America, but they don't fully dive into that idea. Sam is essentially thrown away by Ross after the assassination attempt because Bradley is Sam's friend. So Thaddeus is like, nope, I'm done working with you. We're done. Your best friend tried to kill me. I don't want to have anything else to do with you. And it's kind of like, okay, we've got would Steve have been discarded so quickly had, something like that happen. I guess you could argue that he was on the run from the government because he was protecting Bucky. And that's also like one of my problems is that this movie feels very similar to that movie in that he's trying to protect Bradley, and then Captain America. Steve Rogers was trying to protect Bucky in his movie. But I really like the idea of this Captain America really having to work within the system and try not to, step too far out of line, but also do the right thing and take risks when it's warranted and when it's called for. But they don't really go far enough with that idea.
Yeah, I don't think my mind was too focused on the whole racial aspect because I didn't really feel like the script was.
It could also be like a reshoot thing. Disney seems to be very much on like a like a apolitical stance these days. We don't want to upset anybody. We just have to, go straight down the middle and not mess with either side or not, piss off anybody.
That's not what art's about. It's not about challenging people. It's about pleasing everyone.
Yeah, it's not about messaging. It's about just pumping out mindless entertainment.
Yeah.
So, what would you give it out of a score of 1 to 10?
When I left the theater, I was feeling a 7, but then as I thought about it, it dropped down to like a 6. It's sufficient.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am. Right when I walked out, I was thinking like a 7. Like that was good. That was, it's better than I was expected, and also better than everyone else seems to think. But then, like you said, your brain starts connecting the dots and thinking about things that didn't make sense and how many different storylines were going on at the same time, and it just kind of all starts to crumble underneath its own weight. So yeah, I'm at like a 6 as well.
Yeah, this wasn't Thor Love and Thunder, where I was fluctuating between like being annoyed and just pissed off watching it. This was C tier Marvel. Yeah, Marvel should take Sam's advice and do better.
Agreed.
So that's Captain America: Brave New World. I don't know. See it if you want.